Hi, welcome. My name's Amanda, and I am a neurodivergent woman. I have Aphantasia, which we'll be talking about more in this video. I have a rare memory disorder called SDAM, and I have autism and ADHD. So aphantasia is the inability to voluntarily bring images in your mind's eye. And today I came up with a list of 5 advantages to having aphantasia. A lot of times when people first find out that they have aphantasia, they sometimes have a reaction of being upset that they're missing out on something that sounds really cool and amazing. So it's very interesting that most people have made it their entire lives, they're into adulthood, without realizing that they could not visualize. And this is because this isn't something that people just talk about all the time. Well, actually they do. They talk about it all the time. Counting sheep, visualizing in meditation. I can't unsee that. Oh, picture this. Here's the thing. It is reported over and over and over that everybody with aphantasia just thought the rest of the world was talking in metaphor, because we can't see these things that people are talking about. We just assume that metaphor was the way that people were operating. And when we realize that they aren't talking about metaphors and they can actually see, some people can be quite disappointed. And while I admit that it does seem like there are a lot of times where I wish I could actually visualize in my mind, there are times when it would be a very useful trait. I'm going to focus today on the 5 reasons why it is actually good to have aphantasia. Okay, guys, I'm going to add a 6th one. I just thought of. This is my favorite tea. I love it. And I know intellectually I like it. I have 5 sense aphantasia. It means I don't have any of the senses in my mind's eye, including taste. So intellectually, I know I love this tea. But every single morning, I get to experience it for the first time because I can't remember what it tastes like in my mind. So, oh, by the way, in case you're curious, this is the Bigelow, not sponsored, Bigelow Vanilla Caramel Black Tea. And I'm like obsessed with it. Okay. So the number one, I think, top reason that is an advantage to being aphantasia is that we cannot relive or re-see traumatic events in our life. So luckily I had a pretty trauma-free childhood. But that doesn't mean that there hasn't been things like seeing, a dead animal on the side of the road or, things like that. I'm just really glad that I can't keep bringing those images back up in my mind. I also personally don't like watching scary movies, but if I did, I can't replay the scary images from the movie over in my head over and over and over. So I think that's kind of a really big plus. Number 2, Times, I guess, did a survey and is reported that many people with aphantasia have higher IQs. So I recently got diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and part of the diagnosis process was getting a full neuropsych panel. And part of that was to get an IQ test. And I have a above average IQ. So that was kind of fun to find out, and it kind of fits in with the Times report of the fact that many people with aphantasia have higher IQs, which is pretty cool. Number 3, we're very great at abstract thinking and creativity. We have to be. We cannot visualize the problem in our mind to solve it, so we think very abstractly to solve problems, and we're really good at it. I don't know why, but I've always really been good at 3-dimensional space. So I think this is true from a lot of the people I've asked who have aphantasia, but again, with anything on this list, doesn't mean that it is going to be across the board true. I have heard from people with aphantasia who feel that they aren't very good at abstract thinking, but pretty much the ones that most of everyone that I've talked to is, because we cannot visualize. And so we are really good at coming up with solutions to problems without having an image of that solution in our heads, which also makes us very creative thinkers, and we like to think outside the box. And oh my God, but we apparently use very cliche metaphors too. I hate think outside the box. Oh my God. Anyway, number 4, one of my favorites, we're really good at living in the present. So, a lot of people with aphantasia struggle with meditation because a lot of meditation requires on visualization. But I will say that there are now a lot of meditation courses that are getting away from the visualization aspect, and they're focusing on breath work or like focusing on your body movements. And I love that type of meditation. But aphantasia, people with aphantasia are really good at living in the present because we literally cannot visualize our future. Now, I can think about my goals and plans and think about what I want to achieve and plan a future, but I don't just sit there and dwell on a fantasy image of the future because I can't create that in my head. So I don't spend a lot of time just kind of like, wishful thinking of things that could happen in the future. I'm very much more focused on what's going on right now that then can affect my future. I'm a very goal-oriented person. And number 5, it's been reported that people with aphantasia are less overwhelmed by grief. So, grief is a very, very important emotion, and it is important for if you lose someone in your life that is special to you, for you to go through a grieving process. It's healthy. So in a way, this maybe delays the grief process for people with aphantasia. I'm not sure. I've been very fortunate. I have not had a lot of loss in my life at 42. That is pretty amazing. I have had some special people in my life die. I'm not saying I haven't had anybody die, but even the loss of like your family pets. My cat Jake, I had him for like over 20 years. He went to college with me, and he just recently died a couple years ago. He lived to be over 30. Anyway, you can imagine having a family pet for that many years. He became my baby. He was my sweet little Jakey, and he was my world. He got me through college. He was there when I met my boyfriend, who then became my husband. He moved apartments with me. He moved cities. He moved across the country with me. He was there when my kids were born. This cat was there for me through all of my big emotions of my life. So when he passed, it was very, very sad. And you can see right now, I'm feeling the grief of his loss because I am thinking about him. I can't picture what he looks like. The only way I can see Jake is to look at a photograph of him. And that right there makes me sad. But because of my aphantasia, and because I'm not just constantly like thinking of his picture in my mind, I think that I can have these moments of grief and then be able to kind of just move on. And when I'm not thinking about him, his image just doesn't randomly pop up in my head and make me sad all over again. I don't know. I can't really compare what it would be like for a visualizer to have this experience of grief. I'm just kind of trying to explain it from my circumstances. And I did want to use my family pet just because, I don't know, it seemed a little easier to talk about than the loss of other family members. So, okay, why did I end on that one? That was too hard. My Jakey. I'll just see if I can find a photo of him and put a picture up of him. He is so sweet. Anyway, so if you have aphantasia, make sure you comment down below. And I love to hear if this list resonates with you, or if you can think of another advantage to having aphantasia. please share that too, because it is really good to hear from people in the community. Make sure you subscribe so that you can get all the videos that I post about being neurodivergent, and I will see you on the next video.